President Trump announced the construction of a new class of Navy ships named after himself. The president said that this quote-unquote Trump class of warships would be kind of the centerpiece of what he described as a golden fleet for the U.S. Navy. Joining us right now is retired Army Brigadier General Steve Anderson and retired U.S. Army Major Mike Lyons. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Major Lyons, on the new Navy fleet, let's start there, that Trump just has now ordered. You say that it raises some new questions as he's announcing this. What and why?
Well, Kate, the question is whether or not the battleship has a role in the modern Navy and whether or not it will project power into China. That's really what this is all about. Battleships were decommissioned back in the early 90s for a reason, as the carrier became the center of gravity for naval operations and protecting that carrier and the aviation assets on it. This introduces a new command center and command control that likely can go closer to shore and perhaps project power there. But it's one big target that the Chinese have an advantage with more ships right now within their naval fleet. And again, trying to build something like this in an environment where we've not been successful in getting out destroyers and other things that are more important right now to our Navy. So the question is, again, whether it has a role in the modern Navy and whether or not it will project the kind of power that the president thinks it's going to do.
It's really interesting. And General Anderson, I mean, the president said the way he described it is that the United States desperately is in need of ships. And he called the existing Navy fleet, the way he called it, is old and tired and obsolete. What do you see in this announcement?
Well, I totally agree with Major Lyons. I mean, I think that a battleship is not the right approach. I mean, a small, agile fleet is something that the Navy needs and could use. But modern warfare has changed, as Major Lyons insinuated. I mean, now drone technology is paramount. So, I mean, you know, having a battleship, a big, large floating target. I mean, I look back 3 years ago when the Ukrainians blew up the Russian battleship Moskva using low technology anti-ship missiles and essentially surfboards on remote control loaded with munitions. I mean, that, as Major Lyons points out, a battleship is a large floating target. So we need to focus the American industrial base on building drones. Secretary of Defense has stood up this drone dominance program, which I think is a great step forward. And then we need to focus the American industrial shipbuilding on small, agile ships, not battleships.
President Trump announced that the Navy will build new battleships to create a so-called Golden Fleet. The new vessels are being called Trump-class battleships. They are expected to be longer and larger than the Navy's World War II-era versions.
So the battleships are going to be armed just in terms of guns and missiles at the highest level. They'll also have hypersonic weapons, many hypersonic weapons, state-of-the-art electric rail guns, and even the high-powered lasers that you've been starting to read about. We have lasers where you aim the laser at a target, it just wipes it out. The U.S. Navy will lead the design of these ships along with me because I'm a very aesthetic person.
The president says the U.S. will start with 2 ships with the goal of building up to 25. It comes, of course, as Trump has deployed dozens of U.S. military assets, including Navy warships, in the Caribbean amid an escalating feud with Venezuela's leader. I want to bring in my Republican source tonight, Congressman Carlos Gimenez of Florida. He serves on both the House Armed Services and Homeland Security committees. Congressman, very grateful to have you on the show tonight. The president previously told military members at Quantico this year this, quote, "I don't like some of the ships you're doing aesthetically. They say, oh, it's stealth. I say it's not stealth. An ugly ship is not necessary in order to say you're stealth." Now, one of the renderings for the new ship shows Trump's image on the ship itself. What do you make of Trump's interest in being involved in the design for these ships?
Look, the only thing I care about is that we develop the most lethal surface combatant in the world because we need it. Right now, China can outproduce us like 250 to 1, and they already have the largest Navy in the world. They're the #1 adversary. We've got to get to it, and so we need to have and build a new classes of ships that are going to be up to the task of the new threats that are emerging every single day. And so again, I don't care what they're called. I want them to be lethal, and I want us to build them as fast as we can because we're falling way behind.
Do we have the capability to, again, whatever you call them, to build these ships? Because our capacity to build ships has been declining in recent decades.
That's correct, and that's one of the things that we're doing in the House Armed Services Committee is emphasizing that we need to step up our shipbuilding capability here in the United States because we have fallen way, way behind, and for too long we've allowed these capabilities to go offshore, especially to China. So look, when I tell you that they can outbuild us 250 to 1, for every large ship that we build in the United States, China can build 250. We're not going to catch up to them, but what we need to do is make sure that the ships we build are highly lethal and able to combat the growing Chinese threat. And so we need to get to it. We need to start building them. And if it's a new class of battleship, then so be it, with new weapons, space-age weapons. There won't be the big guns. That'll be something else. And we need to start building, and we need to start building that capability right here in the United States.
President Trump announcing a new battleship design he is calling the Trump class. Watch.
The U.S. Navy will lead the design of these ships along with me because I'm a very aesthetic person, alongside our partners in American industry. And we're going to have Pete Hegseth and Marco and a lot of very talented people involved. But a lot of it's already been done. We've been doing this for months.
Let's discuss that and more with Republican Congressman John Rose of Tennessee. He's also a candidate for governor. Congressman, just to start, the news, your reaction to President Trump announcing the creation of this new class of battleships, is this something that you believe should be happening? Do you believe there are any ties to what we've been seeing in the Western Hemisphere, particularly in Venezuela, with this announcement?
Well, I don't know that there are direct ties. Certainly, the president ran on the promise to make sure that our military was up to the task of defending the country. We know that our Navy is an important element of that, and I think the president's announcement is just in keeping with the longer-term plans to keep our Navy in a position to be able to defend this nation and to serve our interests around the world.
It's certainly been a policy focus of some of his top advisors, again, not just this term, but also in his first term as well. The naming of the ship class after himself, my White House colleague Kristen Holmes said, probably shouldn't be surprised. They renamed the U.S. Institute of Peace the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace, renamed the Kennedy Center the Trump Kennedy Center. What does it tell you that the president keeps naming things after himself?
Well, I think this president has been through a lot, was pursued relentlessly by the previous administration. And so I think you see to some extent a recoil and recalibration from that. And obviously this president is proud of the historic electoral victory that he achieved. And so I think you see some manifestation of that in these events that you described.